Hello viewers, this is Nimrod TV and you're watching Perspectives with me, MARYAM OlUGBODE. Nigeria's political landscape is facing another shakeup. The House of Representatives is considering two major constitutional amendments, bringing back the parliamentary system of government and setting an upper age limit for politicians. These proposals have set off a firestorm of debate. Supporters claim they are the key to solving Nigeria's governance crisis. Critics call them a distraction from more pressing issues. So what exactly is happening and why now? Sudan's capital, Khartoum, is back under military control. The Sudanese Armed Forces (SAF) have reclaimed key locations including the Presidential Palace and the International Airport, after months of fierce battle against the Rapid Support Forces (RSF). The Army Chief, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, made a dramatic return, declaring Khartoum is free. But is it? This was been raging for nearly 2 years. Over 150,000 people are dead. More than 12 million have been displaced. And yet, Sudan is still a battlefield. The SAF have taken back Khartoum, but the RSF is far from defeated. They still control vast areas in western Sudan, including Darfur. The fighting continues. The suffering continues. The world continues to watch. So, what does this victory mean? Is Sudan on the path to stability, or is this just another chapter in a long and bloody conflict? All of this and more coming, but first the news headline. Nigeria's lawmakers push for parliamentary system, age limits for politicians. Sudan's army recaptures Khartoum. Myanmar earthquake, hundreds feared dead. Gaza's humanitarian crisis. Canada says the US-Canada relationship is over. Now to the news and details. Nigeria's lawmakers push for parliamentary system, age limit for politicians. Nigeria's democracy has been here before. At independence in 1960, Nigeria adopted a parliamentary system modeled after Britain. The government was led by a prime minister, but by 1966, the system collapsed thanks to ethnic tensions, political rivalries, and a military coup. Now, lawmakers argue that a return to the parliamentary model will be more cost-effective, improve accountability, and reduce executive excesses. Here is how it will work. Instead of electing a president through general elections, Nigeria would have a prime minister who is elected by parliament. This means the head of government will be directly accountable to lawmakers, and if they fail, they can be removed through a no-confidence vote. Sounds good? Maybe. But there is a catch. Nigeria's political environment is more complex than it was in 1960. The country has over 250 ethnic groups, deeply entrenched regional rivalries, and a history of political instability. Critics argue that a parliamentary system may not be the magic fix lawmakers think it is. Take a look at Pakistan. The country has a parliamentary system, yet it has suffered from political instability for decades. Will Nigeria face a similar fate? Now, let's talk about the second big proposal, the age limit for politicians. Lawmakers want to introduce an upper age cap, possibly 60 or 65, for those contesting to become president or governor. The idea to inject fresh energy into Nigeria's leadership and create space for younger politicians. This move follows the Not Too Young to Run campaign, which lowered the minimum age for elective offices. But while that law made room for young people, it did not push out the old guard. Now, lawmakers want to go a step further. Supporters of the proposal point to global trends. Emmanuel Macron became France's president at 39. Finland's Sanna Marin was 34. Even in Africa, countries like Burkina Faso and Mali have seen younger leaders take charge, so why not Nigeria? But there is a flip side. Some call this an undemocratic move, a desperate attempt to edge out experienced politicians. If passed, this law could disqualify several of Nigeria's top politicians, including President Bola Tinubu, Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, and Rabiu Kwakwanso. Would Nigeria really benefit from pushing out older politicians? The United States elected Joe Biden at 78. Singapore's founding father, Lee Kuan Yew, led his country well into his 60s. Age alone doesn't define leadership. So, is this reform truly about youth empowerment or just a political power play? And will these proposals become law? Changing Nigeria's constitution is no easy task. The National Assembly must pass this amendment with a 2/3 majority, and at least 24 of Nigeria's 36 state legislatures must approve them. That's a long road ahead. And let's not forget, politicians who stand to lose power will fight back. Some will resist the age limit, others will oppose the parliamentary switch. At the end of the day, Nigerians must ask, are these reforms the key to fixing governance or another round of political drama? What do you think? Is this a bold step towards a better Nigeria or just another distraction? We will be watching. Moving on. Sudan's army recaptures Khartoum. This war began in April 2023 as a past struggle between two former allies, General Burhan of the SAF and Mohammed Hamdan Dagolo, better known as MDT, the leader of the RSF.
The army managed to successfully and forcibly clean the last pockets of the Dalo militia in Khartoum. After recapturing the presidential palace, the Sudanese army chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan declared that Khartoum is free. It's done. The war between the Sudanese military and the RSF has been raging since 2023, and the latest takeover comes a day after the army was accused of one of the war's deadliest airstrikes, killing dozens in a market in the western region of Darfur. Earlier this week, the RSF was officially announced a military alliance with rebel group, the Sudan People's Liberation Movement, led by Abdelaziz Al-Hilu, that controls key border areas with South Sudan and Ethiopia.
The result, a full-scale war, with Khartoum turning into a war zone. The RSF seized the capital, driving the army out and committing widespread atrocities, executions, rapes, and ethnic killings. The city, once Sudan's political and economic hub, became a ghost city. The world looked on, little statements and a little else. But now, nearly a year later, the SAF is back. The army launched a relentless assault, pounding RSF positions with airstrikes and artillery. It was a brutal campaign, but it worked. The SAF now controls the capital again. This is the moment Sudan turns a corner, not too fast. The RSF is still strong. They may have lost Khartoum, but they still hold large parts of western Sudan, including Darfur. Some experts believe Sudan is now effectively split, with rival governments forming in the east and west. The humanitarian crisis is worsening. This is the worst humanitarian disaster. Half of Sudan's population is starving. Even with the airports back in army hands, aid is still struggling to get in. Foreign powers are playing their games. The RSF has been backed by external powers, including the UAE and Russia's Wagner Group. The army has its own international supporters. This isn't just a Sudanese conflict anymore. It's a battleground for global interests. Sudan's war is far from over. So what happens next? This war is now shaping into battle for the rest of Sudan. The RSF, known for its brutal guerrilla tactics, will likely dig in and fight from its strongholds in Darfur. The army, on the other hand, may struggle to hold on to its recent gains. And then there is the civilian cost. 12 million displaced, millions starving, hospitals barely functioning. The fighting may shift, but the suffering remains. So is this a turning point? Not yet. The SAF has won Khartoum, but peace is nowhere in sight. Sudan remains in turmoil and the world remains indifferent. The war for Khartoum may be over, the war for Sudan is not. Myanmar earthquake, hundreds fell dead. A catastrophic earthquake struck Myanmar, shaking the region to its core, both literally and figuratively. The 7.7 magnitude quake, one of the most powerful in recent years, has left entire communities in ruins, with hundreds fell dead.
Now, the building in the north of the Thai capital was reduced to rubble and twisted metal in seconds after the quake. The Thai Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra had interrupted an official visit to the southern island of Phuket to hold an urgent meeting. The metro and rail services have been suspended in Bangkok, while power outages have been reported in several parts of Thailand.
The tremors weren't just felt in Myanmar, they spread across Southeast Asia, sending shockwaves through Thailand, China, India, and Bangladesh. So what happened? What's the scale of destruction? And how is the world responding? Let's break it down. At approximately 3:45 a.m. local time, a massive earthquake hit central Myanmar, the epicenter near Mandalay, one of the country's largest cities, and at a depth of just 10 kilometers, shallow enough to make it devastating. Then, as if one quake wasn't enough, a 6.4 magnitude aftershock followed minutes later. Buildings crumbled, roads cracked, and bridges collapsed. In Mandalay, part of the historic royal palace were reduced to rubble. Hospitals are overwhelmed, emergency crews are digging through debris, and authorities are struggling to assess the full scale of destruction. Myanmar's military-led government has declared a state of emergency in at least 6 regions, including Sagaing, Mandalay, Bago, Magwe, Shan State, and the capital, Naypyidaw. But Myanmar wasn't the only country affected. The tremors traveled far, to Thailand. In Bangkok, a 30-story building under construction collapsed, trapping at least 43 workers under the rubble. Panic spread across the capital as metro services were suspended and buildings were evacuated. Thailand's Prime Minister declared an emergency and rescue operations are underway. Also to China. In Yunnan province, homes were damaged and 2 people were injured in the border city of Rili. Shockwaves reached as far as Sichuan and Guizhou. Also to India. Tremors rocked Kolkata, Delhi, and Imphal. The aftershocks even reached Meghalaya, where a 4.0 magnitude quake was recorded. Bangladesh, Vietnam, and Laos, cities like Dhaka, Chittagong, Hanoi, and Ho Chi Minh City experienced tremors, causing widespread evacuations. This was not just Myanmar's disaster, it was a regional catastrophe. So far, at least 59 people are confirmed dead, 55 in Myanmar, 4 in Thailand, more than 250 are injured, and over 210 people are still missing. The numbers are expected to rise as rescue teams walk through the wreckage. Entire neighborhoods in Myanmar's affected regions have been flattened, roads are unusable, communication networks are down, and hospitals are running out of supplies. The country's already fragile healthcare system is struggling to cope. So who is helping? Myanmar's military junta has issued an international appeal for aid, a rare move from a government known for its isolationist policies. Rescue teams from Thailand and China are preparing to assist, and India has offered emergency supplies. But here is the problem. Myanmar's government is under international sanctions, making coordinated relief efforts complicated. Will global powers step in, or will political tensions slow down much needed aid? Meanwhile, in Thailand, emergency teams are racing against time to pull survivors from the collapsed building in Bangkok. And in China and India, authorities are assessing structural damage to prevent further casualties. This disaster has exposed major vulnerabilities in Myanmar's infrastructure and disaster preparedness. But it also raises a bigger question. How prepared is Southeast Asia for the next big quake? This region sits on multiple fault lines, and earthquakes are a constant threat. But despite this, many countries still lack the infrastructure to withstand such disasters. The devastation in Myanmar is a grim reminder of what happens when preparedness falls short. The world is watching how this crisis unfolds. How many more lives will be lost? How fast can rescue operations move? And will Myanmar's political crisis make things worse? For now, the priority is survival. Rescue teams are working around the clock, families are searching for loved ones, and the country is trying to recover from one of its worst disasters in recent history. Moving on. Gaza's humanitarian crisis.
The United States has supported Israel at every stage of this war. There are many things the United States could have done that it did not do. It could have laid out red lines very early on with regard to civilians. It could have said it's not acceptable to weaponize starvation and disease directed at an entire civilian population. We know that Israel is deliberately causing a humanitarian catastrophe, and that is part of its strategy. And instead of laying out clear red lines up front, the United States and frankly all of Western Europe, primarily most of Western Europe.
The war in Gaza has entered a new horrifying phase. The guns have not gone silent. The bombs have not stopped falling, and now even those risking their lives to bring aid, humanitarian workers, have been killed. In the past few days, multiple aid workers have died in Israeli airstrikes. Some are missing, others are still under the rubble. The United Nations, one of the few lifelines left for Gaza, is scaling through operations after an Israeli tank strike hit its compound, killing a Bulgarian staffer. But let's be clear, this isn't just about aid workers. This is about 2.3 million people trapped inside Gaza, surviving on almost nothing. The blockade has cut off food, water, and medicine. Now, even those trying to help are being eliminated. So what's happening? Who is responsible? How will the world continue to watch in silence? In the latest attacks, Israeli airstrikes hit a convoy of humanitarian workers, killing at least 9 people, including 8 staff members from a UK-based aid group. Another strike killed 2 Oxfam aid workers. Then there is the United Nations. A UN compound came under Israeli fire, resulting in the death of a Bulgarian worker and injuries to 5 others. The message is clear: no one is safe, not the civilians, not the doctors, not even those bringing food and medicine. The UN is now withdrawing a third of its workers from Gaza. The reason is simply too dangerous to operate. And this raises a critical question. If even aid workers are being killed, how much hope is left for those trapped in Gaza? The blockade has turned Gaza into a graveyard. The numbers are staggering. 50,000 people dead since October. Over 800 killed in just the last few weeks. A medical system on the verge of collapse. Hospitals are overwhelmed. Surgeries are being done without anesthesia, and medicines are run out. And then there is the food crisis. The situation is so dire that children are reportedly drawing pictures of food in the sand. Let that sink in. They're not asking for toys. They are asking for bread. Water contaminated. Clean drinking water is a luxury now. People are drinking whatever they can find, leading to a surge in diseases. Electricity almost non-existent. So what happens next? Does the world wait until starvation kills more than the bomb kills? Governments are condemning the violence. Statements are being made, but the bombs are still falling. The UN has called for an immediate humanitarian corridor. No response from Israel. Human rights groups are accused Israel of war crimes. No action from global powers. U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders is pushing to block $8.8 billion in U.S. arms sales to Israel. But will it pass? Will Washington act against its closest ally? The reality is Gaza is burning, and world leaders are still debating. Meanwhile, the people in Gaza are running out of time. Let's be brutally honest. If aid workers are no longer safe, who is? If doctors cannot save lives, what is left? If children are starving, what future does Gaza have? This is no longer a war against militants. This is a war against survival itself. The world is watching, but for the people in Gaza, watching does nothing. They need food, they need water, they need an end to this war. How much longer will the world wait? Moving on, Canada says the US-Canada relationship is over. For decades, Canada and the United States were inseparable, a partnership built on shared borders, economies, and values. But now, Ottawa says that relationship is over. Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has delivered a blunt message. The era of business as usual with Washington is finished. His remark came after US President Donald Trump imposed a crushing 25% tariff on Canadian auto imports, triggering economic shockwaves across North America. And this isn't just about trade anymore. It's about the geopolitical realignment.
The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperations, is over. President Trump again imposed unjustified tariffs on our nation in violation of our existing trade agreements. We will respond forcefully. Nothing is off the table to defend our workers and our country. And our response to these latest tariffs is to fight, is to protect, and to build. We will fight the U.S. tariffs with retaliatory trade actions of our own that will have maximum impact in the United States and minimum impacts here in Canada.
So, what exactly is happening between these once close allies? Why has Canada decided to go on its own way? And what does this mean for the future? The US-Canada relations have seen ups and downs before, subtle lumber disputes, dairy wars, and trade disagreements. But this is different. Trump's latest move, slapping the 25% tariff on all auto imports, including those from Canada, has put billions of dollars at stake. The Canadian auto industry, which exports nearly 85% of its production to the US, is facing an economic nightmare. Canadian officials call it an attack on our economy. And Carney isn't mincing words. He has declared an end to Canada's traditional reliance on the US, signaling a major shift in trade policies. Translation, Canada is done playing nice. Ottawa is now looking elsewhere, Europe, Asia, and even Latin America, to build new trade alliances. The goal, reduce dependency on Washington. But is this a wise move, or is Canada pushing itself into an economic crisis? This isn't just about tariffs. It is a full-scale economic standoff. Here is what is happening. First, retaliatory tariffs. Canada is eating back. The Trudeau government, before stepping down, had already warned of countermeasures, and Carney is making good on that promise. Tariff on US wine, spirits, and beer are being imposed. Canadian retailers are already removing American products from shelves. Consumers are encouraged to buy Canadian instead, and the impact is already visible. Canadian wine and spirit sales have surged, while American products are gathering dust. Second, a blow to the auto industry. For Canada, the auto sector is a $100 billion industry, directly employing over 500,000 people. The new US tariffs put hundreds of thousands of jobs at risk. Car makers in Ontario, home to Canada's largest manufacturing plants, are panicking. Some executives warn of mass layoffs. Others say companies may relocate. The Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, has called it a direct attack on Canadian workers. Third is declining US travel. Here's an unexpected consequence. Fewer Canadians visiting the US airlines have started cutting flights between Canadian and US cities due to a drop in demand. Why? A mix of anger and economic factors. The worsening relationship is making Canadians think twice about vacationing in the US or spending their dollars there. It's not just trade. It is the very foundation of US-Canada relations. For decades, the US and Canada functioned as economic and strategic partners. Trade, security, and diplomatic ties were deeply interwoven. But now, Ottawa is actively seeking to distance itself from Washington's influence. Canada is exploring deeper economic partnerships with the European Union and Indo-Pacific nations. This could reshape North American geopolitics. If Canada successfully diversifies its trade relationships, the US may lose its biggest and most reliable economic ally. So what happens next? This is far from over. Canada is not backing down. The country is doubling down on economic diversification, looking for alternative partners. The US is playing hardball. Trump has shown no signs of lifting tariffs, and if history is any indicator, things could escalate further. Consumers will pay the price. Tariffs mean higher prices for cars, alcohol, and travel, hurting everyday people. Will Canada's strategy work, or will Canada find itself economically isolated? For now, one thing is clear. The whole US-Canada relationship is over. What comes next? No one knows. Before I go, once again the news headlines. Nigeria's lawmakers push for parliamentary system, age limits for politicians. Sudan's army recaptures Khartoum. Myanmar earthquake, hundreds fear dead. Gaza's humanitarian crisis. Canada says the US-Canada relationship is over. Thanks for staying tuned. Once again, I'm MARYAM Olugbote.